Over the last 15 or so years, I've changed my desk setup a lot. I have upgraded and changed out pretty much every single part you can when it comes to editing and creating my videos. But this one here, I believe, is the best setup I've ever had. So I want to tell you what upgrades actually matter. So let's start off with the main aspect of any setup, and that is the computer. For the last 12 months, I've been using the M3 base model MacBook Pro. I did upgrade the RAM from 8GB to 16GB as I was a little worried whether it would be powerful enough. But after using it for 12 months, I can easily recommend this base model MacBook M3. 6K footage, 8K footage. I'm currently midway through editing like a feature-length documentary that is full of Blackmagic RAW from Sony cameras, XAVCI in 6K, 8K, all the high resolutions, high frame rates on a timeline that is around 30 to 40 minutes long. I also do a ton of colour grading work. I get hired as a colour grader on projects I've not shot, and also colour grade most of the work I do shoot. And again, the MacBook Pro screen comes in really handy for that, but we'll touch a little more on that in a second. Right underneath my MacBook Pro, I have a stand that just gives it some elevation so it can line up correctly with my colour grading monitor. The stand I use is the Curve Flex stand from 12 South. Now anything from 12 South can be a little bit pricey, but I've gone through many different laptop stands here and I believe that you do get what you pay for. When it comes to the Curve Flex model, it basically means it's adjustable, where a lot of 12 South stands are just kind of one fixed height. So I went for kind of the flexibility. I want to say here as well that this desk setup I have here is kind of built around being able to just pick up the MacBook and also go with it. And if I need to do some last minute amends or changes, I don't have to come all the way back to my office. I can do it at home or even out away in a hotel room when I am on a shoot. So the Curve Flex stand sits on top of a monitor stand. There are two reasons I use this monitor stand and not just placing the Curve Flex stand directly on the desk. And the first one is it just has a convenient drawer what lets me put away loads of wires. I'm a big believer in clean desk equals clean mind, and anytime my desk gets messy I just find it harder to concentrate. Not sure why that is, but it's just something I've noticed about myself. So it has a nice little drawer, and underneath it has a space that is exactly the right size to fit two more important pieces of my desk setup. And this monitor stand is just from IKEA. It's relatively inexpensive, super affordable, and everything I talk about will be linked in the description below. Some will be affiliate links, some will not. Like, I don't have an affiliate link for IKEA, so I will still link it there in case you're interested in picking that up. So this is from OWC, and it is an 11-port Thunderbolt 4 dock. This allows me to get 11 different inputs and outputs all through one singular Thunderbolt cable. Now this is super essential for just placing my MacBook down, plugging in one cable, and the whole thing just works. From having an Ethernet port, external hard drives plugged in, the external monitor, it also powers and charges the MacBook at 90 watts, so that is plenty for me to use and render and still keep it fully charged. It also has a memory card reader built in and has two different audio outputs and has multiple USB-C and older USB-A. This thing just basically turns my MacBook Pro, when placed on the desk, into a desktop setup. It allows me to have everything plugged into it, one cable into the MacBook, and away I go. So, colour grading monitor of choice is from BenQ. This is quite old now, but still, it's a 10-bit monitor and it holds up really, really well. They've refreshed it among a newer model, and they are actually not that expensive in the whole realm of how expensive like 10-bit colour grading monitor can get. I do want to upgrade this at some point to something a little bit brighter, as sometimes when the sun comes into the room, it can be a little bit hard to see. But that said, if you are building a proper colour grading environment, then you should probably control the light. Anyways, and secondly, there is a limitation here from the MacBook Pro where you can only output to one monitor. So I am using the MacBook Pro screen itself as my second display. But I think there is a bit of an advantage in there as well, as so many different directors and clients who I'm sending my finished colour grades to will also be watching it back on a MacBook Pro. which is a great reference point for you to kind of double check your work. I have nothing but good things to say about this BenQ monitor. It comes with a sun hood, which I've removed, and it also has a stand that is really good quality, allowing you to adjust up, down, and also turn the monitor sideways, and also works on a hardware level with a colour calibrator, which is super important if you're going to be doing colour grading of any kind of professional level. I have stuck some 6500 Kelvin temperature LEDs around the back of the monitor, so when I have it up against the wall, projecting that colour temperature onto the wall is great for neutralising your eyes when colour grading. Something I'm doing what you are not supposed to do is I'm outputting through my Thunderbolt Dock. Realistically, I should pick myself up a Blackmagic I/O card so I can bypass any kind of funky graphics stuff that is going on and get a clean output out of Resolve. That is probably next on my list to do, as I used to have that on my older setup when I used to be on a PC before I picked up the MacBook. My colour calibrator of choice is this one here. It is from X-Rite and it is the i1. Again, I've had this a very long time. I believe it's been refreshed to a newer model, but hopefully it's around the same cost, as this is the most affordable one they sell. As I said, this works on a hardware level with that BenQ monitor, and all these little like 10-bit colour calibrated with one of these really does make a difference when you're colour grading. You really do see tints and colours that you would not normally notice. So being at your desk is an opportunity for us videographers, cinematographers, photographers, grips, gaffers, whatever you may be. It is time when you can actually look after your body. So when you're at the desk, the last thing you need is not to be looking after your back. And this all basically comes from the chair. When it comes to purchasing a proper ergonomical chair, it can get insanely expensive. But I find that the ones from FlexiSpot, as I have here, are a really good balance of just incredible value but keeping that cost down. All their range of chairs are really well thought about from an ergonomical perspective. The one I have here is actually the GC5, which is from their gaming range. It looks incredible, so unusual and different, what I love. But if you're after something that looks a bit more minimal and professional, they also have like a professional ergonomical range. I've recently been eyeing up their C7, which is a kind of flagship range topper, because it's currently on offer. One thing I've noticed about the FlexiSpot chair that is just miles ahead of all my other chairs is just the cushioning on the bottom. It's so thick, it just makes it much more pleasant for sitting it hours and hours a day. It's even got little neat design features like a little hook on the back that you can put a bag on, or your headphones or caps, anything you'd like really. It's just really well thought through from a design perspective, and on top of that you also get the benefits of how ergonomical it is. My mouse of choice is like the most obvious option, as every creator seems to use this mouse. It is the Logitech MX. The one I have here is the older one on the old USB micro. I need to upgrade to get that USB-C, as finding the older style USB cable to charge it is a bit of a headache. It is marked, it is battered, but it still does its job perfectly fine. And that is a testament to how well these are made. If you're looking for a mouse, just don't waste much time and pick yourself up a Logitech MX. Now my keyboard of choice is something much newer. I've gone through like 3 or 4 different mechanical gaming keyboards before I landed on this one here, which is again the Logitech Mini mechanical keyboard. This thing is like a halfway between a full-on gaming mechanical keyboard and I'd say not mechanical, like professional keyboard. It fits right in the middle. I love how small it is, so it leaves me loads of space on my desk to just place my camera down, have my memory cards laying around. As creators, we're going to need that kind of extra desk space, and keeping it mini just makes it look better also as well. This thing is by far the best keyboard I've ever typed on. I'm sure there's more expensive keyboards out there that perform a lot better than this, but for its price / features, excellent battery life, USB-C, fits right in that zone of ticks all the boxes and is reasonably affordable. The last thing I have to talk about, if you didn't already guess by now, I am a DaVinci Resolve user. I edit and colour grade and finish projects from start to finish in Resolve. And recently, around 3 years ago, I picked myself up the DaVinci Resolve Mini colour grading panel. This terminology of game changer gets thrown around an awful lot in today's world, but this actually is a game changer. Speak to anyone who's purchased this kind of colour grading control surface, and then there is just no going back. The speed this thing enables how you can correct your footage is just on another level. Blackmagic recently brought out a cheaper one with like 95% of the features of this thing. If I was buying again, I may just go for that one instead of this one, as you can save yourself around $2,000 I believe. It's battery powered so it can use wireless, just keeping your desk even cleaner, which I love the idea of. Everything is sat on a little desk mat, which again I've only had for around 6 months. We are constantly putting down our cameras and cards, and it just protects them, it protects the desk. You're just going to spend hours on there doing all your different tasks and work, then you might as well enjoy it. This is probably the cheapest one I could find off Amazon. I will link it below. I recommend picking one of these up for sure. The desks here themselves are from IKEA. They're not actual desks that screw together. I've just bought like worktop surfaces and multiple legs, and around this office here I just have 4 legs and 2 different tops. I can put them together in an L or just kind of use them for kind of YouTube shots. But the one thing I do think I'm missing is a standing desk. This could be an upgrade that I try soon. I do like the health benefits that a standing desk brings. I would recommend, and I'm probably going to get one sometime in the near future. My microphone of choice, which I use for most of my YouTube videos and also for like business meetings and production calls, is the Shure SV7 Plus. This is the same microphone that you have seen across all those famous podcasts, but this one is the electronical version, which allows you to plug in a USB cable. Although I do not use it that way, I actually run it into my field recorder / sound card that we'll move on to in a sec. The arm I'm using that the microphone is attached to is from Rode, and this is weirdly one of those things that if you go cheap on a microphone arm, they almost are unfunctionable. It's such a weird thing, like no one has ever made kind of a cheap microphone arm that is good, not to my knowledge anyway. I've tried like 2 or 3 different ones and they was all just god awful until I just forked out for this slightly expensive one, and it's amazing and does exactly what I need. So yeah, my advice here would be do not skimp on the mic arm. So my sound card / audio recorder, as it does double as a field recorder and comes onto set with me, is the Sound Devices Mix Pre 3. Now Sound Devices are more famous for being field recorders. They're probably the most used kind of high-end preamps in the industry. But you can also plug them into a MacBook via USB-C and they become a sound card. I choose to run my microphone through that as I think it sounds better than when doing it through USB-C, and I just find it much easier to have the physical knob to control my gain levels. If you speak to any kind of audio ops you meet on set or out in the world, they will always have nice things to say about Sound Devices. They've got a really good reputation for having great preamps and being really well made, so I can easily recommend anything from them. So while we are talking about sound, let's go over my speakers and headphones. My headphones of choice are not mixing headphones, so they've probably got some sort of weird kind of bass boosting EQ, which is a bit of a no-no when it comes to mixing sound. So I know I probably should change that, but I just really enjoy the Sony WH-1000s. These are extremely popular headphones. You see everyone using them all the time, and I myself love them. I use them in other parts of my life for like exercise, walking, the dog, etc. So I just kind of double use purpose them, and that's probably why I've never upgraded them. Moving on to speakers, and it is a similar story to the headphones. I know I should have some studio monitors with a really flat response for mixing and getting those levels correct, but I just don't have the space on the desk. Those things are so large. I've chose to use these little Bose ones, which to me sound great, and I've had them for maybe 10 years. I'm sure there is a newer model out and I will link that below, but these things sound incredible. They're probably a little bit bass heavy, but I've kind of gotten used to using them and knowing how to mix it due to feedback from people and just hearing my stuff out in the world. Let's move on to storage, and I'll start where I actually edit active projects from. I use a Crucial X9, is it, or X8? I have both the new one and the older one, but these things are external SSDs. Everyone knows how expensive upgrading storages with Apple when purchasing a MacBook Pro, so that was just a no-go for me. I have this little pouch that holds it on the back of the MacBook lid. That means that when I grab the MacBook and I leave, it always comes with me. This is not any kind of redundancy though. We'll get to that in a sec. This is just active projects I'm editing at the time, and I always make sure that if my MacBook was to get stolen, lost, the hard drive was damaged, there is other copies of that footage. The memory card reader of choice I use is from Freewell. Ever since they sent me this, I don't think I've ever travelled anywhere without it. It does CF Express Type A, CF Express Type B, micro SD, normal size SD. It also holds the cards and protects them, and has a built-in USB-C cable. The speeds on it are just frighteningly fast when I've got them on CF Express A or B, and they're going directly to the crucial hard drive. I get like over a gig a second, and I can back footage up extremely fast. So let's talk about redundancy. The main way I keep my footage safe is a NAS. Now, for anybody who does not know what one of those is, it is network attached storage. What these things are is they are like these bays that you put multiple hard drives in, and this kind of does a thing called a RAID configuration that duplicates footage across multiple drives, meaning that if one of those drives was to fail, you can replace it with a new one and it will rebuild that data. The one I personally use is a Synology NAS. I love it. It's really kind of got a friendly interface that you can log into and access from pretty much anywhere. And it allows us to use the server render computer over in the corner to back footage up, because it is 10 gigabit Ethernet. So it works really fast chucking data on and off it. What I do for files that I want to keep maybe forever, and that's in quotation marks, is I just place them onto old disk drives. Then I have this case that I picked up, and it just keeps them disk drives safe. And hopefully if I ever want to pull it back out, everything would be okay. I am a firm believer in it is just quite unrealistic to keep everything you shoot. I always render out a high quality finished edit of a project I've worked on and keep that, as that is much more realistic. But to keep all the footage once you start capturing raw footage at 6K, 8K, it's quite absurd. Internet storage to keep it online, which I also do for active projects, is also becoming more and more expensive as the days go by. So something that I've just learned is to just cut ties and delete footage when the project is truly finished and wrapped up. Make sure to offer any clients if they would like to purchase an hard drive so you can put it on and give it them. But for you, just move on to the next project. And if you'd like to know the other advice I've learned over the last 15 years, watch this video here.